they all are orbiting the exact same network of the Harriman banking house, Brown Brothers Harriman, which again is even affiliated with Montague Norman, the fascist eugenics loving director governor of the Bank of England, who had his family bank merged with the the Harriman family of America to create Brown Brothers. Also, again, major conduit for supporting the growth of Nazi fascism all the way up through the early 30s when Prescott Bush was helping to facilitate loans to the Nazi machine. Later on, Montague Norman himself oversaw through the transference of Czechoslovakian gold into the Nazi coffers even after the war had begun. So you had a lot of work. And later on, even Prescott even found himself working for Union Banking Corporation, where he was found guilty in a congressional investigation in 1941 after the U.S. had joined the war for trading with the enemy through a variety of very obvious subsidiaries and fronts. He was doing direct business, supporting the growth of the Nazi complex. Later on, the Rockefeller Standard Oil complex was also behind providing petroleum products and other things to the Nazi machine. There was, like the idea that the Nazis just arose as this sociological organic phenomenon is such a mythology and a lie. Like, this is so artificial. So much work had to be put in, money, energy, finance had to be put into the growth of this artificial monstrosity. The war didn't have to happen. The war was, and again, people attack Roosevelt for getting the U.S. into a war they shouldn't have been in. There's a lot of people who do that, and was there information regarding Pearl Harbor as an inside job? Yeah, there was pre-knowledge of that. The Australian encryption or decryption offices or bureau that was beholden to British intelligence and Churchill had found several days in advance they decrypted a variety of messages between communication channels of the Japanese, indicating the Japanese were planning on carrying out this attack. They delivered that information to Churchill, which was part of their protocols, and they presumed that Churchill would deliver that to Franklin Roosevelt. And of course, Churchill didn't, because by this time, the governing class of Britain had a big policy of abortion. There was a bit of a policy coup where the openly hardcore fascists like Oswald Mosley and Neville Chamberlain and Lloyd George, who had aspirations to become prime minister again, were there was a decision to eliminate, or even King George or King Edward the eighth, I want to say seventh, eighth, the Nazi king, taught Elizabeth the Hitler salute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were representative of the consensus of what the British governing class wished to be the foundation of the New World Order, until Hitler started falling out of alignment with their agenda. So he was obeying things regarding the annexation of Czechoslovakia, of Austria. Things were going well. He was supposed to go straight on and become a bludgeon, a battering ram to Russia, which was always the idea, was to get Germany to become a weapon to destroy Russia and have them just kill each other, so that the British could eliminate all potential rivals, which is what Germany and Russia had historically been with the United States. Mm-hmm. Hitler didn't obey those expectations, started listening more to his generals, who had a little bit more, I guess, street savvy, and he started getting a sense that, well, with the military power and financial power we've just grown, largely with the help of England and the United States industrialists and financiers, we can actually be the senior partners of this new world order. We don't have to be the junior partner enforcers of a British command. They can be our junior partners, and some of the British command were happy to go along with that, and eat some humble pie, and other ones were like, no, we bend to no one. we're the top dogs, the alphas, no matter what. And that's what was behind this change of British foreign policy, where they installed Churchill, a slightly more somebody you could sell as being anti-Nazi, though he was not anti-fascist and he was not anti-genocidal, because look what he did to the Indians. And he admired the Mussolini black shirts and even said he would march with them if he was a little bit younger. But despite that, he had a better PR, better public image. So they put him in, and he was begging Roosevelt to come in and save their ass and help turn things around. And Roosevelt bided time. He knew that America was still too weak, had not built itself up enough and recovered enough from the Great Depression in 39, 40, and he didn't have the support. American people often, the majority, did not trust. They already got, getting enmeshed in British imperial foreign wars overseas. They did that in World War I under Wilson. It didn't work out at all. It was a disaster. They didn't want it again. And so Roosevelt obviously had to contend with that as well. But, the idea that he himself had orchestrated Pearl Harbor is a complete, everything I've looked at does not, they make a lot of leaps of assumption that they expect their followers to carry on with, based on the fact that he had created a naval blockade or basically sanctioned Japan, made it difficult for Japan to access American petroleum and other products, for carrying out their slaughter of Chinese, of which the Japanese killed over 10 million Chinese, many of whom were civilians. And so, yeah, like Roosevelt cut off the Japanese war machine in the midst of their slaughter that had already begun in 1931 against the Chinese. That was part of the trifecta, right? Japan and Nazi Germany were going to divvy up the world. Britain was going to have, according to that plan, the Anglo-American fascists were going to control Western Europe and North America. Germany was going to control Eastern Southern Europe and also Russia as the new slave colony. Japan was going to control Oriental Asia. England was also going to control India as the crown jewel. Africa was going to be a free-for-all of fascists to loot as a continental slave colony. So Japan had their role to play, and they were also big into eugenics too, right? As we saw with their very, it was big. So yeah, Roosevelt blocked them from accessing the tools they needed to carry out their execution of civilians and others, And so to say, oh yeah, because he did that knowing that he would provoke them into counterattacking Pearl Harbor. It's like, no, that's a bit of a leap. The fact that Roosevelt did, or that there was pre-knowledge through the Australian De-encryption Agency, that was sent to Churchill, that Churchill sat on and didn't let the Americans know about it. Yeah, that's real. That was foreknowledge. So you can call it to that degree an inside job if you want, but not really. It's no way comparable to, like, let's say the Gulf of Tonkin lie that never happened to get the US into the war in Vietnam, or 9/11. A different beast completely.